Support for WUWM podcast comes from Hop Harvest and Vine and Good Harvest Market in Milwaukee, part of One Destination, combining farm-to-table dining, local craft beers, and organic groceries under one roof. More at goodharvestmarket.com.
This is Capital Notes from Milwaukee's NPR. I'm Maayan Silver, speaking with J.R. Ross, editor of WizPolitics.com. Hi, J.R. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Some big news from last week. Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley ended his campaign for governor, saying it became clear that he won't be the Democratic nominee. Can you talk more about this?
Well, look, for campaigns in general, you're kind of asking two main questions. At the very core, two main questions as you run a campaign. One, do I have a path to victory? And two, do I have the money to get there? And it became clear to Crowley that the answer was no. We will see campaign finance reports filed this week that'll shed new light on what they've been raising the last 6 months. The kind of assumption is that Crowley's not going to be among the top fundraisers in that field. If he were, maybe he'd still be in the race. But if you don't have the resources of the path, what's the point? And obviously, he'll still be on the ballot. There'll still be a chance for the vote for him. But by getting out now, it's a realization of, hey, there's not a path here. I see somebody I think is better than Sarah Rodriguez. I'm going to get behind her. That also there's a benefit of that for Crowley in that he's building a bridge, a rapport with Rodriguez that might help him down the road, because people remember that when you get out of a race and endorse them, they remember that you went and backed them, something like this.
And as you mentioned, Crowley endorsed Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez. Former candidate Missy Hughes, who dropped out earlier, had also endorsed her. CBS 58 reporter A.J. Bayatpour had asked Crowley whether he dropped out so that establishment Democrats could coalesce support around Rodriguez and away from Democratic Socialist Francesca Hong. He said no. What do you think about that?
Well, there's this kind of interesting conspiracy theory that there's some kind of establishment, quote unquote, like this smoke-filled room where power brokers say, you can run or you can't. That's not how it happens. Like I said before, campaigns know they got to figure out what's my path to victory. Do you have the money to get there? And if they don't, why are you still in the race? That becomes the question. If you can't communicate to voters, if you don't have a shot to win, what are you doing? And if you think there's somebody who's better positioned to win than yourself, it's an easy decision for some people to make. Now, we don't see things like the Democratic Governors Association. They're not, endorsing anybody in the race. Governor Evers isn't endorsing anybody. Tammy Baldwin's not endorsing anybody. So where's this quote-unquote establishment that's forcing people out? Are there operatives I talk to who think that Francesca Hong is not as strong candidate as others? Yeah, absolutely. But there's no group of people in some kind of back room who are hatching deals to force people out of the race. That's not what's happening. Missy Hughes and David Crowley realized, hey, I don't have a path. I think Sarah's our best bet. And that's what they did. Now, there's an argument to be made that Francesca Hong might bring out new voters that Democrats haven't been able to tap into before. But there's definitely a concern among operatives I talked to that Francesca Hong would make winning the governor's office more difficult, if not possibly even out of reach, if she's a nominee because of various stances that she's taken, and a fear that it could cause a down ballot issue if national groups don't invest in Wisconsin. But again, as far as something like the quote-unquote establishment, forcing people out, that's not what's going on here as far as I can tell.
And the primary for governor is coming up in about a month. There's, as you mentioned, a crowded group of Democrats still. What else do we need to know about developments in that race?
So we're going to get some really key data points in the coming days and weeks. Those finance reports will tell us who's got the money to communicate to voters ahead of the primary. We're going to have a Marquette Law School poll July 22nd. That'll give us an idea of where the contenders are. We're going to have a debate hosted by WISN TV and kind of co-promoted by us at WisPolitics, July 28th. Early voting begins July 28th, the primary August 11th. So we're going to see a number of things happen rapid fire. That'll tell us what's going on. One of the big questions hanging out there is, will anybody else leave the race? That's a question for some of the people who have to figure out after we see the money that comes in these polls, where are they at? They have a path to victory. That could shape things. And two, what outside money is going to keep coming in to help or hurt contenders? We've seen a group backing Sarah Rodriguez spend more than $900,000. group backing Mandela Barnes now up on the air, doing digital stuff that's going to go on the air on Madison TV. The campaigns themselves have begun media buys. Rodriguez announced a $1 million one. Kelda Roy's $500,000. Mandela Barnes announced a six-figure buy. Joel Brennan's been on the air. He's currently not up, last time I checked. So they're communicating, but who has the resources to get to communicate to voters? And two, who's going to get that outside help? That's very important. Francesca Hong has had an impressive run with creating excitement among certain people in the base. But to really reach primary voters, you have to be able to communicate. You need resources to do that. Does she have those resources to effectively communicate to enough primary voters to win that race August 11th? That's a big question for her.
This is Capital Notes. I'm Ayan Silver, speaking with J.R. Ross of WisPolitics.com. So moving on, Vice President J.D. Vance visited Milwaukee last week. He had some choice words for Democratic Governor Tony Evers because of Evers' refusal to turn over SNAP enrollment data to the federal government. SNAP provides food benefits to low-income families to support their grocery budgets. What's this all about?
Oh, I mean, the Trump administration is on an anti-fraud kick. They are going after what they see as problems with some of these safety net programs, people in the roles that shouldn't be. And then they're taking the fight to blue states. Governor Evers is part of an effort to not turn over those roles. There's a lawsuit, I think, has been filed about that. Governor Evers, the state, well, actually not Governor Evers, but the Elections Commission has declined to turn over the voter rolls, unredacted information about voters to the U.S. DOJ, saying it doesn't have the power to do that. U.S. DOJ filed a lawsuit, rejected by the courts. We're now seeing U.S. DOJ threaten local election officials across the country that if people who are not eligible to vote, who are not citizens vote, that there will be criminal prosecution. So there is a concerted effort by the Trump administration to drive this message of there's fraud out there, and they're going after it. Obviously, the pushback has been from Governor Evers that they're overstating things, that while there might be issues, there's no widespread fraud. No evidence of widespread fraud with the election rolls in Wisconsin. So it's this kind of standoff between the state and federal governments.
And there's two things here. There's that SNAP benefits recipients information. They're asking for things like Social Security numbers, immigration status, and Evers is citing data security concerns and that it's like potentially unlawful demand by the administration, the presidential administration, to get this information. When it comes to election information, the FBI is still probing the 2020 election. Can you fill us in on what Milwaukee Mayor Cavalier Johnson wrote to Vance ahead of his visit and how Vance described the mayor's criticism?
Oh, basically the mayor is saying, hey, there's nothing here. You guys are raising all these false claims. Let's knock this off. And the vice president's response was that Mayor Cavalier Johnson doth protest too much, essentially. That, there's something there, he suggests. So, look, there have been numerous reviews of the 2020 election in Wisconsin. They have found that Joe Biden won, Donald Trump lost. There were administrative errors in an election, just like there are in every election, but no widespread fraud. There were no machines that overturned votes, et cetera, and away we go. So, unless there's something new brought to light or some massive change in the narrative, I'm not sure from talking to people what this investigation is going to prove. Because so far we haven't seen anything to suggest other than kind of people suggesting, well, that doesn't look right to me. There's been nothing that suggests that there's a problem with the election. Again, we can have discussions all day long about should clerks have been allowed to fill in missing information for witnesses on the address they filled in on absentee ballots. That's an administrative decision. But as far as widespread fraud, there's, again, been no evidence whatsoever of widespread fraud in the election.
So what would you characterize as the larger initiative by the Trump administration when it comes to continuing to amplify lies about the 2020 election and litigate it?
Look, President Trump believes he won in 2020. At least he says he believes that. Nobody's been able to convince him otherwise, and they continue to do this. There's stuff going on in Georgia, other states. I'm not sure what to say about it other than this is something he's pursuing, and we've not seen anything to back up his claim so far.
Would you say that he's setting this all up to potentially deny fair results in 2026?
We'll see. There are a lot of people who are raising concerns about that there's something amiss, that this is all about 2026 and, will there be ICE agents at polling sites, for example, or federal agents or what? possibly we'll see what kind of transpires in coming months.
And on that note, the ACLU, on behalf of immigrants' rights group Voces de la Frontera, last year they asked the state Supreme Court to directly hear its lawsuit challenging immigration detainers. Those are requests from ICE for local jails to hold someone for up to 48 hours. The suit argues that holding someone for extra time has to be authorized by a judicial warrant, that the holds are an illegal new arrest. There were some developments in this lawsuit last week. What's happened?
Basically, the state Supreme Court put that case on hold. So the 5 sheriffs who were sued tried to move the case to federal court, arguing that that's where it should be heard. A federal judge in May said, you guys waited too long to file this. It's going back to the state Supreme Court. The 5 sheriffs then appealed that decision to the 7th Circuit in Chicago. The ACLU and Voces de la Frontera had argued to the Supreme Court, hey, we should keep going. This is just going to bog things down if you allow this to be put on hold. But the sheriffs wanted to stay, and the court said, yeah, we're going to stay this for now until we wait to see what happens with the appeals court, and this is going to be moved there. Because if the feds are going to take it over anyway, what's the point of kind of proceeding in this case, the state level? So everything's on hold for right now while we wait to see what happens with the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals.
And you mentioned earlier that people are kind of watching to see what's happening with voting in the 2026 midterms, whether ICE or other federal agents would be posted near, polling sites, things like that. The federal government has also boosted funding for ICE. They've hired more people at that agency. ICE is getting more active in the Midwest, in places like Milwaukee. Is there anything that you're watching for from a political perspective?
Just in talking to people, they've noted that it's a much quieter approach than what we saw like in Minneapolis. Like we saw these surges, right, in other cities where there were like very violent conflicts between ICE agents and local residents. They're taking a different approach. People have noted to me it's much more kind of, say, under the radar, but not as in your face. They're still sweet. People are still being arrested, and there's still issues that are popping up, but it's not what we're seeing where there was constant video of people protesting the streets and clashing with agents. It's just a different approach, and people, such as suggested to me, the Trump administration is trying to avoid another Minneapolis incident where that really started to hurt Trump's numbers on immigration. That's when you saw that issue trying to turn against him, trying to avoid something similar happening going forward ahead of the midterm elections.
All right. Thanks for the insights, JR. And as always, thanks for joining me on Capitol Notes.
Anytime.
That was JR Ross, editor of WizPolitics.com, speaking with me, WUWM's Maayan Silver. Listen for our segments every other Monday with an extended segment on Lake Effect, and check out the Capitol Notes podcast wherever you get your podcasts.